Hello everyone, and this is chapter 10 of the ongoing Introduction to Houdini series, sort of intermittently ongoing Introduction to Houdini series. I've been gone a while. I was recording my my commercial training, so that's done. So I figured I should get back to work. Alright, so what we're going to do in this lesson is we'll continue dealing with attributes, but we'll also do a few more things as we go along. So what I want to do is I want to try and do like a small project that will also involve rendering the whole thing. So you'll get an idea of how to render and how to build shaders in Houdini as well. Okay, so let's get started. So what we're primarily going to do is we're going to do something called attribute transfer. And we will also take a look at another one of the copy tools. Let me just start off with, I'm going to start off with a simple grid. And let's say what we want to do is, we want to have some text sort of appear on this grid in kind of like a pin machine, when like this is made of say circles or squares or whatever, and wherever the text shows up, like they're like pins, so they kind of extrude more. So kind of like that. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just take this, I'll give it about 50 points each. Okay, so not a lot. Like the more points you can have a lot of points that will look more cool if you have a lot of points. But the more points it has, the more it has to calculate, the slower it gets. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to take about 50 and 50. And then I don't want the geometry at all. So I am going to take an add sop. Okay. And the add sop essentially does a lot of things. But one of the things it can do is it has this option up here which says delete geometry but keep points. So it's a good way to get rid of polygons, and if you just want to keep points, it's a nice way to do that. This is optional. You can do this or not do this, but like this is what it will do for you. And even from a rendering standpoint, if you want to just render points, then this is not a bad way to do it. So the next thing is I want to copy some circles on this. So, but I want to copy like a cylinder. Okay, so I'll just take let's do one thing. Let's take a tube, or fine, let's take a circle. We'll take a circle and I'll put it in the ZX plane. Let's keep it to polygon, and I will make it small. So how big is this? Yeah, no, smaller still. So let's go to 0.1. Yeah. And let's do a copy. Now, what I'm going to do is there are 3 different copies in Houdini. So the most simplest one is copy transform. The one that we have used is copy to points. The copy to points is useful when you have like global variables or global attributes up here like p-scale and stuff, and using those to affect your copied objects. But it doesn't have any other additional controls. So the one that we are going to use is called copy stamp, okay, which is sort of like the big daddy, okay, which is the one which is a combination of both. So it not only uses attributes, but it gives you all the basic controls as well. So you can combine the two of them and do a lot more. And you also get like more options, essentially the stamping options, but we'll talk about those in a later lesson, like not right now, because that's like a whole different thing altogether. So the nice thing about the copy stamp is you can use any attribute. Like it's not limited to just like color or p-scale or stuff like that. You can make any custom attribute and use it to modify your copies. You'll just have to write like a function for it, but you can use anything that you want. And the reason I'm using this is something that you'll understand as we go along. Like why are we not using copy to points? Okay, so we'll just copy this, and there you go. So you have like a simple grid here. But what I want to give it some thickness. So we'll also take a poly extrude in the middle. So I'll take a poly extrude and we'll drop it in the middle, and I'll just give it some thickness. Now by default, the normals of this point downwards. Okay, like if you look at this, If you turn on normals, you'll see that they point downwards. If you want them to point upwards, there is a node called reverse. So reverse allows you to like flip normals. So if you put in a reverse, it will flip the normals. Okay, so then the poly extrude, see the poly extrude is now pointing up. So we'll just give it a little bit of height. And the issue that comes with poly extrude is also by default, it doesn't give you like a base for it. So you need to turn that on. So what you do is you come down here and you turn on output back, and that will make the bottom face. So there you go. So this is now you just have like a set of, you know, these guys. So you can, like, the reason I'm using a circle is because we can also give it, like if you want it to be like four-sided or something like that. See, that doesn't look bad, you know, that's a nice little design. So we could probably use this, why not? Okay, so let's use this. Okay, so this is done. This is what we basically want to do. Okay, now let's say what we want to do is we want, like, wherever the text appears, we should have these things extruding. Okay, so the way we are going to do is we're going to generate an attribute on the base grid, and then we're going to generate the same attribute on the text, except the base grid attribute will be at 0 and the text attribute will be at 1. Okay, and then wherever the text shows up, we will use that attribute to adjust the scaling of it. So the reason why this is useful is because now we have access to the scaling options. Like what you want to do is turn off transform cumulative, and then we have options to sort of like stretch this, which you don't have, like that option is not available in the copy to points tool. Okay, another thing, like if you don't want to see these dots, sadly you don't have an option to turn off the guide because it's showing you base geometry. So what I usually do is I just put like a null at the bottom of this. Nothing, just to sort of get rid of those dots. Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to take an attribute create and create an attribute, or there is another way to create attributes. So here's the thing, if in the intervening period you have seen my intro to Vex series, which I will recommend that you should, because it will sort of help speed up the overall process. But we'll use the attribute wrangle sop to generate attributes. I can't recall if I have covered this already. I'm going to just assume that I haven't, so I'll just do it anyways. I think I have, like we did it in the previous lesson. But anyway, so I'm going to take a wrangle, like an attribute wrangle, and we'll create a float attribute. So it's going to be like F for float, at sign, and let's call it A. Like I do very like stupid names for attributes. Generally, if you want to sort of remember them better, like the reason I do ABCD is because it's easier to type. At A is very small to type. If I do like at extrude, then it's like easier to make spelling mistakes. So I keep very small names. But I don't know if that is like a good idea or not. It works for me. But yeah, you just keep names that you will remember. Okay, that's the whole point. And we'll give it a value of 0. So that's essentially it. So now, if we look at the geometry spreadsheet, okay, so I'll do an alt and right bracket, and I will right click on scene view and change it to geometry spreadsheet. And there you go. So we have an attribute called A and its value is 0. Okay. So that is step 1. Now I want some text. So let's take some text. So I will type font. Okay. So press tab and take font, and font generates a text. Okay. And by default it does this, which is it's actually got like a number count going, because it's using the old variable called $f, which is for frames. So what it is doing is it's just saying like if I delete this, that is just normal text, but see, this will give you like a number. Or if I do like a $t, which is time, so that will give you, see, it goes into like 7 decimal places, which is actually like way more than that. Or you can do the Vex code as well. So we can do at frame. So even that will work. Or hold on, if we do at frame, let me try and do a backtick here. Yeah. So if you want to do like an at variable here, you need to put it into backticks. So what backticks do is, if you have a text field and you want to use like a function or a variable over there, then you put them inside backticks. So if we type something like, let's say if we do countdown, okay, and countdown and at frame, and see, that's what you'll get, which is the reverse countdown, but there you go. Okay, I could try to do like let's do at frame. This is 240 frames, right? So let's do at, okay, this is a little tricky. Let me just see. If we do at frame, no, inside the backticks. Yeah, so we'll do a bracket here. We'll do at frame minus 240, which is the number of frames that we have right now. So yeah, see, so you're going to get this, and you go down to 0. Yeah, so you're going to get that. Okay. So yeah, there you go. Like, you can do something stupid like that. Okay, but we don't want to do that. Let's just give it a number, right? Let's just say 10. Okay, so nothing too fancy. And where's my grid? Yeah, there's my grid. So I'm going to firstly, let's make it a little bigger. So I'm going to take the font size and make it bigger. Okay, and maybe a different font. I don't know what to use. Yeah, let's try this. Yeah, okay, that looks like a thick enough font, something thick enough. And yeah, what we can also do is, if you want it thicker, we can take a poly extrude. Let's see if this works. Take a poly extrude and give it a negative inset, which will make it thicker. See, so it basically just extrudes it. And if you don't want the borders or the sides, turn off output side. There you go. So it becomes a little more thicker. Okay. Okay, and then we'll rotate it. So we'll take a transform, and I shall rotate it to minus 90 and then another 90. Okay, so this is done. Now what we want to do is we want it to affect, we want to firstly generate an attribute here. So we're going to take the attribute triangle. Let's do Control C, Control V. But the problem is that, you know, they're going to go on these points, and we have very few points here. Like, this is like, there's nothing in the middle, you know, and attributes don't go into empty space. So what you want to do is, we want to fill this with points. So you get something called scatter. Okay, so scatter will allow you to, like, scatter just scatters points on this. So if I just connect it to a scatter, you'll see that it's filled up with points. The number of points don't matter. It's just like we need points for it to influence the other points. Like, this is all empty otherwise. Okay, so I'm just going to increase this till we get like a few more points here. And then plug in the attribute triangle. Yeah, it's a little broken up. Hold on a second. Let's do scale by radius. Yeah, just increase that till it sort of fills up. Yeah, it's sort of scale by the radius here defines the distance between the points. So if you push them apart, it sort of tries to fill up the whole space better. Okay, and then this value will be 1. So that's done. Now we want to transfer these values over here, but we want to control the distance of it. Okay, so what you get is something called as an attribute wrangle. Sorry, you get an attribute transfer. So just type in transfer and you will get attribute transfer. Anyway, so we want to transfer onto this from this one, and you can't visualize it right now, but we want to transfer, you can transfer everything, or we can just say transfer A, and we want to be able to visualize this. So what you do is, you can select this and press X, and that will give you a visualize node, and come to the visualizer and say the attribute to visualize is A. So we are visualizing A. The reason why it's red is because it is spreading way too much. So if I start to lower the distance threshold, see, there you go. You can see the value. Okay, so what we want to do is, like, keep this value to 0 and just use a little bit of blending. Okay, so I prefer the blend value because it sort of blurs the whole thing, which looks better. Another way to visualize this, like, this is good because this is useful, okay, is you can also take a color, and like the way we had done before. So we can take the color, we'll say ramp from attribute and type in A, And see, there you go. And yeah, so this is fine. So let's connect this in here. And what you can do now is, if we say, if you want to inherit the values, okay, the values from here, like the color that we have, like copy to points picks up the color automatically. In the copy stamp tool, you need to pick it up on your own. Okay, now here's another a little tip. If you're using tutorials that are older than Houdini 16, there's always a lot of confusion. So before Houdini 16, there was only one copy tool, which is now called the copy stamp. Okay, so what we're using right now is the only copy tool that was there before. With Houdini 16, for some reason, they broke it up into 3 parts. I am not sure why. I'm guessing it's probably for memory, but I don't know. It just confuses a whole bunch of people. So yeah. So the point being, if you start using a previous tutorial, like a Houdini 15 tutorial or a 14 tutorial, and they use the copy tool, it's copy stamp. That's basically it. Okay, so everything that you're doing is just the same. It just, instead of copy, now it's called copy stamp. So what you do is you can turn on use template point attributes and see, there you go. Okay, so that basically gives you this. Now, what we want to do is we want to extrude this using the A. Okay, so we have our attribute called A and we want to use that to extrude this. So what you can do is come in here. Let's change the color here. So let's make this, let's keep the base red, or let's keep the base black, and let's keep this. Okay, we can use that. Okay, so what you do is you come in here, and if I just come to the Z axis and I can do at A, and if I press enter, now something has happened. You'll notice that these became completely flat because this value is 0, and then wherever we are transferring from A, see, these are at 1. Okay, and we can sort of move this around. If I move this around, you'll see that it is transferring values. See, there you go. We want to set a range for this now. Okay, so we're going to use something called as a fit function, which is really useful. Again, I can't remember if I have done this before, but I'm just sort of, repeating stuff again. So give me a second. Okay, so the fit function is essentially used for taking an existing set of values and then remapping them to a newer set of values. So if I'm saying like my A attribute has values from 0 to 1, but let's say I want them to be from 1 to 10. Okay, so that is what the fit function does. So fit has 2 options. Okay, like the basic is you can take the one that's used the most is called fit 01, but you also have a fit. Okay, so the fit function requires like 5 things. Okay, it requires the name of the attribute, so in our case A, and then it says what is the current minimum maximum value. So current minimum value is 0 and 1, and then what will be the new minimum maximum value. So let's say the new minimum max value should be from 20 to 50. So everything that is 0 becomes 20, and everything that is 1 becomes 50, and then whatever is in between is in between. So this is the fit function. But usually if the values are always between 0 and 1, you can you can modify them using a fit 01. So fit 01 assumes this already exists. Like sometimes if your values are between -1 and 1, then the fit is nice. But if your value is between 0 and 1, then this just requires the name of the attribute and whatever is the new value, because we are already assuming that this is true. Okay, so we are going to use like the fit 01 because that is what we want. So as I said, like if you have an attribute where the value range the default value range is not 0 to 1, it is much more sort of higher or lower, then you use the whole fit function. And if you have the values between 0 and 1, then you use the fit 01. So the way it works is, and this is why the copy stamp is better, is because we can type that kind of stuff here. Okay, because just we don't want p-scale. Like what p-scale will do is it will just make like these ones bigger and these ones smaller, which is not what we want. What we want is let's hold on. Let's see if I can give this a different color. I think the checker is sort of causing, let's see if we can, yeah, okay, we'll keep it to that because the checks were sort of looking a little weird. Okay, or keep it higher, like let it be a circle, that's fine. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll come in here and we say fit 0, 1 and start the bracket. This will be at A and comma, we want the grid to be at 1 and we want everything else, we want the text to be at 10. Okay, so let's try 10 and enter, and there you go. See, so what's happening is it sort of stretches it out. Let's try to go higher, let's try 20. Okay. So this makes it much more interesting. And then if I come into this text, okay, and we do like what we had done before, like let's say if we'll do backtick at frame, backtick close. See, so what you'll get is this. Maybe we can get it of the poly extrude. Yeah. See. So if you want to do like a clock or a countdown or something like that, we can do that. Yeah, anyway, so this is essentially it. So this is how attribute transfer works. Okay, and we can do, stuff like that with it. It's pretty useful. Like you can do a lot of things with it. Okay, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with, more of that as we come along. But yeah, this is not a bad idea. And then what we can also do is we should bevel the edges. That will look nicer. Now the way we can do that, okay, this is another like a small tip. Okay, is like you can do a bevel after the copy. Don't do that because you have like a lot of points. Like how many points do we have? We have 2500 points. If you try to bevel 2500 tubes, it's going to slow down. Okay, so what we want to do is we just want to select like these edges and not the vertical ones. Let's take the circle, make it about 30 sides, so it's fairly smooth. So what you can do is we'll take a group and we want to create a group of like these edges. So the trick for that is change the group type to edges, okay, and then come to include by edges and turn on the minimum angle, and there you go. So minimum angle is really great. So what minimum angle does is it sees like whatever is below 20 degrees in relation to each other, it'll select all of those, and usually it works for stuff like this. Okay, and then take a let's just call this bevel. Okay, and then take a poly bevel. This is a great tip for modeling. Okay, like this is like something that you can, whenever you want to round your edges and stuff like that, this is a great thing to use. And so set this to bevel. See, so it's setting it to this, and then we'll just give it like a really small value. It by default has a segment in there. We don't want that, so keep it down. And see, so you're going to get like a slight bit of a bevel. It's kind of stretching it, so it stretches out a bit too much. Let's try to go a little higher. Yeah, it's going to cause issues. Or let's do one thing. No, this is fine. Yeah. There are other ways to do this. I just don't want to get into it right now. It'll cause unnecessary confusion. Okay, let's try one thing. Let's keep this to like 4 sides. So which will bevel everything. Yeah, no, forget it. Keep it to 30. This is fine. Okay, now as a final thing, this is a little like, it's starting to look a little round. We want it to be like flat. So add normals to this. So take a normal over here and set it to like say 30 degrees and set this to by face area. And what that should do is, see, it will kind of, flatten it out. So now the reason why it's not, is it working? Yeah, there you go. See, you're still having it flat. Yeah, so there you go. So this is basic attribute transfer, and we also took a look at like the basic fit function, which again, as I said, I'm not sure if you've done the fit function before or not, but the point with the fit function here is because of the copy stamp, you can use it to modify your copies in different ways. Okay, like another thing you can do with this is, let's say if you want this to sort of maybe like rotate and stuff, you can also do that. Like let's bring this down to 4 sides. Okay, so it looks like this. And then let's say what we want is like when the text come up, they should spin. You know, like wherever the text is coming up, they should be rotated 90 degrees, and then otherwise it should, you know, go down. So let's like y-axis should be where we're rotating it. Yeah, I think it should be 45. Yeah, there we go. So what we want is when the text comes up, it should be like this or the other way around. So what we can do is we can do a fit 01. We're again using @a, and we're saying default value should be 45, and then whenever it comes up, it should be 0. Okay, so what you'll get is that, see, so everything down is like a grid, and then when that wherever it comes up, it comes up like that. Or if you want to reverse it, you can reverse it. Like let's say this is 0 and this is 45. See, so you'll end up getting this. So what will happen is, like if I let's say if we just, you know, if I make it say 10, okay, like a fixed value, and I'll take a transform, and let's say we'll just animate it a little. Okay, so I'll just come in here and then I'll push this down a little. Okay, now the way to animate it is you keep Alt pressed and click in the value, so that will set a keyframe. And then once you've set a keyframe, you can turn on this button which says auto key. Okay, so now I can, let's say I'll come ahead to about 17. We'll take it down to 0. Oh, sorry, wrong axis. Yeah, we want to do it in the y-axis with the new transform. Let's call it animation. Yeah, so yeah, come down here. We'll do Alt click, take it down a little, and then let's come to say 15, or let's come to 12. Bring it to 0. We'll give it a little bit of time, like let it stay there for a while. So we'll do another Alt click and then come back here to, let's say 34, and bring it back down. So what you'll have is like it comes up, stays there, and goes back down. If you keep shift pressed and click on this, you will get the function curve editor. So you can see what your curve is, or the animation editor. So what that should do for us is, if we come in here to the copy, is this will happen. See, so it comes up and then it goes back down. Like we can also use it to affect the overall uniform scale. So what I can do is, like, let's come to the copy. We'll also affect the overall uniform scale. So I'll again do like fit 01 and @a, and we'll say start at 0.2, end at 1. See, so these become really small. Okay, and then when the text comes up, it goes up like that. See, like they automatically start becoming bigger when it comes in. Yeah, see. Like what we can do is, if you want it a little bit better, just increase the blend width, so it sort of blends out a little more, you know. So the effect is a little more smooth. We can try to, like, you can change the kernel functions to different models. It will give you like different results. Okay, like some blend in different, like each one blends in a slightly different way. But there you go. So you can get like different results. See, there you go. That looks a little more interesting now. Maybe not that small, so we can adjust it a little. Let's try 0.5. Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah, now you won't be able to make out the rotation because now it's almost circular. But I think, yeah, this looks better. You know, this looks a lot better. Yeah, so this is the basic effect. So this is attribute transfer and using like the fit function to generate like an effect. You can do an animation like this and do a countdown if you want. Okay, so like that's perfectly possible as well. Like we've done like the frames thing, like if I take this and I make it, yeah, but that will go too fast. It won't work. Okay. Yeah, we could do a countdown, but let's do that, you know, at another time because it will just get more complicated. But yeah, so this is like a basic effect that you can do, with something like attribute transfer. Now, what I'm also going to do is, this is sort of like part one of this tutorial. In the next lesson, we will, which is going to be a continuation of this, we will do a render of this. Okay, so what I want to do is I will set up some basic, I'll set up a basic light, and we'll also build a material. Like what we want to do with the next lesson is like this color that we have set up. How can we bring this color at material level? Or if you don't want to bring this color, if you just want to bring the attribute itself, like the A attribute, and use that to modify, then how to do that? Okay, so that's what we'll take a look at in the next lesson.